So what I'm going to be using and what we're going to be reviewing is the Primeweld Cut 60. There's a lot of reviews of this particular plasma cutter on YouTube, and most of them are pretty good reviews. You know, you're not going to find too many reviews that have anything negative to say. In fact, in general, you don't have too many reviews of Primeweld products that are, you know, all that critical. You know, again, price point, you got to consider that it is technically an import machine, but it's an import machine that's supported domestically. So when you call for parts or customer service, you're talking to somebody local, you know, in the States here. New Jersey is where they're based. Okay, so right off the bat, packaged pretty well, just like it was when I bought the TIG welder. There's your manual, and that's going to be important to keep, not just for like troubleshooting or anything else, but in the back it gives you a pretty good list of settings for various metal. Toss that there. The foam clamshell off of there. Okay. All right, in addition to the machine itself, your torch, IPT60, some tools and consumables, and in this last box, we got the plug adapter is included to go from 220 down to 110, so that would be from your NEMA 650 down to your standard 110 outlet. Your work clamp, your CNC connector. That's one of the other reasons that I really liked going with this is it has a CNC port on the back of the machine, ready to roll for a CNC plasma table, which is on the agenda, so that's definitely helpful. And then the ubiquitous crappy plastic face shield that I think is included with every machine from every manufacturer known to man. But hey, still good, I guess. I guess good to have laying around in case a buddy comes over to give you a hand and you don't have an extra helmet, or he's just turning his head away each time he's holding something for you. Okay, just so some quick test runs here. As I've already mentioned, Primeweld was gracious enough to supply this cutter for testing purposes. So with no restrictions, they simply said to give it an honest review, which I think shows a lot of confidence in the product. So, and like I said, already having the Primeweld, the TIG 225 that I'm very happy with. My expectations are pretty high on this, but it's not really legible on the camera, but it's all the way down. It's at 20 amps. When I'm cranking it all the way up, it's fluctuating back and forth between 59 and 60. We got a couple different scrap pieces we're going to try. We're going to cut some aluminum, and then we'll try some varying thicknesses of steel and see where we're at. I have a very quick sort of slap together air filter desiccant set up here, just for testing purposes. Okay, the compressor filled itself back up, so now we can actually hear ourselves. Near the back of the manual, page 30 here, there is a air pressure setting reference table for, depending upon what kind of cutting amps you're using, that's the sort of air pressure you should see. And as is known, once you have the torch connected to it, you hit the set air, and that'll open up the valve, and it'll show you what your actual working pressure is versus just what the line pressure is. I have the line temporarily disconnected, but once we get it connected, you want to keep it, it says here, no more than 75 psi. But let's say you see 75 psi, you hit the set air, it drops back to 60 or 65, and crank it up a little bit, get it to where you need, and then lock it in place. And that's going to be the actual air pressure you're trying to work with, is the reading that you get while the set air button is active. All right, this is 30 thousandths thickness aluminum, which is pretty thin. Shouldn't have any problem flying through it, obviously, but for the hell of it, I did want to run it through some aluminum, because typically when you see these being used in a lot of these review videos, nobody's ever cut an aluminum with. Doesn't get much easier than that, huh? And if anything, I was probably actually going slower than I should have. We're not going to put this in fast forward. I'm going to play it to normal speed. I'm going to see how quickly I can run through that. Look at that. That is a clean cut. All right, so this is a fresh piece of 2-inch, 1/8-inch thick flat bar. We're gonna zip through that, and then we're just gonna keep stacking it up in 1/8-inch increments until we see what we can do here. All right, we're gonna cut through this 2x2. I have a bunch of this here right now because I'm actually planning on putting together a CNC table, CNC plasma table with this plasma cutter. Was going back and forth on purchasing the Langmuir Crossfire Pro, but they're back ordered, and there's just some other specs about it that I wasn't super keen on, so why not give it a shot and go for a DIY approach and hope for the best. Not that I've ever built one before, but hey, it'll be fun. Be a fun build. So give it a quick shot here on the 2x2, 11 gauge or 1/8-inch wall thickness, and this way we'll just we'll cut, rotate it, cut, rotate it, and just kind of see what it's doing. All right, so we got 1/8-inch plate here stacked up. 2-inch wide, 1/8-inch thick. We got 4 of them on there, so we got 1/2-inch, equivalent to 1/2-inch thick plate. I'm gonna give this a shot. Now I have it cranked up to 60 amps, so we're maxing the machine out, but it should give us a good idea of where we're at. I think I'm kind of exceeding it here on 3/4 inch, but I do want to give it a shot because the whole idea here is that we're bench testing it. We want to see what it can do. So I feel like it's a little bit unfair to the machine, but at the same time, I mean, people do want to know what they can max out at, and I think it gets harder for the operator to cut thicker when you get to thicker steel like this, just because of the consistency of the pull rate. When you're trying to pull very slow, it's one thing to pull at a consistent speed when you're pulling relatively fast, you know, on sheet metal or 1/8 inch or even 1/4 inch. But when you're getting up to 1/2 inch, 5/8, 3/4, you're really getting to a point where the inches per minute that the machine should be cutting that thickness of metal at is pretty low, and it's very hard for your hands to pull the torch at a consistent speed when you're going at. So I still have these lying around as some scrap. They came from when I got the 4-post lift. It was how they were all bolted together when we took them off the trailer. But there's a lot of good metal on it, so I had them sitting in a corner here and figured I might need it. It looks to be like these pieces are 1/4 inch thick, so I'm going to cut that off so that we can get some pieces together and try the 3/4 inch or maybe even 1 inch thick, but I'd like to do it in 1/4 inch increments. I have a feeling that when I'm stacking up those 1/8 inch plates, something's screwing it up versus, you know, having 6 1/8 inch plates to get to 3/4 of an inch versus using 3 1/4 inch, or even if you happen to have it, a single piece of steel that's 3/4 of an inch thick. So I think this will be a little bit better of a control method to get to 3/4 inch. So let's cut this piece off first to see. And a clean cut. Just checking, this is actually more than 1/4. This is 5/16. Maybe it's metric, I don't know, but it's definitely closer to 5/16 than it is to 1/4. All right, I'm zoomed in here a little bit. I cut 3 of those pieces and stacked them together, so it's actually quite a bit over 3/4 because of that extra 16th. So the 3 of them together, actually closer to about 15/16 than they are 3/4. Okay, hopefully this will show up here, but you can see that 3 of them there is 15/16. 2 of them are 5/8. Yeah, so they're 5/16 a piece. Let's give it a shot. All right, could not cut it on the 3 of those together in 15/16. So we're just gonna go for 5/8 here, and which should be no big deal, right? Machine's rated for 3/4. That's pretty clean. Little bit of dross there at the bottom. And I wasn't using a straight edge, I was just pulling that by hand, but I don't know. That's pretty clean. I think that looks pretty damn good. So overall, my take on the machine is it's a really good machine. Like I said, I'm no expert when it comes to plasma cutting. I've done my fair share over the last 20 years or so, 18 years. But, and I've used some good machines and I've used some not good machines. And I would say that this ranks with the good machines. Okay, and I'm talking like the bigger dollar machines that I've had the opportunity to use. The problem is that I've never used a machine where I'm trying to max it out and cut through like we were doing there, trying to cut through 3/4 inch steel. The vast majority of cutting I've done has been on sheet metal, automotive repair, stuff like that. Maybe cutting a hole in a 1/4 inch plate, something like that, just to drop like a bolt or a carriage bolt. So to never have pushed those high dollar $2,000, $3,000 machines to their limit to see just what they could do for the heck of it wouldn't be a fair comparison. The reputation is already there for Primeweld. I mean, it is an import machine, but all things considered, if it has the performance of a domestic machine and has the customer's support of a domestic machine, but you're getting it at an import price, and that's really hard to match. So yeah, highly recommend the Primeweld Cut 60, especially at a price point of, I believe, $700 or just under $700 now is what they're going for. So yeah, reach out to them and get hooked up with it.